offense to come to judge the quick and the dead. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Church Universal, the communion of the saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and the life everlasting. Amen. Father, that we come this morning to bow our heads on our heart. Thank you, dear God, for the many blessings that thou hast overcome. Father God, I just want to thank you for letting us be to the house of worship one more time. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this day. And then, Father, we come to study your word today, Father. I pray that we'll be able to understand the word and we might apply it in our daily life. And just continue to have mercy upon us. Dear Father, go with the sick and sit in. Go with them, let them know. Touch their heart and body, they feel better. Dear Father, go with leadership today. Give us that discerning spirit that do the right thing for your people. And just continue to be willing to have mercy upon us. These are the blessings I saw in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Our servant, Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, the will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, give those that trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. You may be seated. Today is lesson number 4, March 24. March 24, 2024. Living in faith. Lesson scripture Act 6, focus scripture Act 6, 7 through 15. Focus scripture. It is Act 6, 7 through 15. Stood and argued with Stephen, but their name was up, with which he said, Matthew 10. And myself, God continued to spread. The knowledge of the disciples increased greatly in Jerusalem, and a great many of the priests became obedient to the faith.
8. Secondly, full of grace and power, did great wonders and signs among the people.
9. Then some of those who belonged to the synagogue of the freemen, as it was called, Alexander, and other of those from Colossae and Asia stood up and argued with Stephen.
10. But they could not withstand the wisdom and the spirit with which he spoke.
Then some men today, we have heard him speak blasphemous words against Moses and God.
12. They stirred up the people and elders and scribes. Then they suddenly confronted him, seized him, and brought him before the council.
13. They set up false witnesses who said, this man never stopped saying this foolish.
For we have heard him say that Jesus of Nazareth will destroy this place and will change the custom that Moses handed unto us.
All of them. And all who sat in the council looked intently at him, and they saw that his face was like the face of an angel. The long bridge. And God spoke all these words, saying, I'm the Lord thy God who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, thou shalt have no other God before me. Lord, have mercy upon us, and incline our hearts to this song. Hear what Christ our Savior, that shall love the Lord thy God, love thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind, This is the first and great commandment. And the second like unto it, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to thy Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Amen.
Hey, teacher, we're going to take the class.
Good morning to everyone. Let me take this opportunity to first and foremost thank you all. Thank our superintendent for opening up for us this morning, and thank each and every one of you for showing up this morning. I want to thank you all for yesterday for our second harvest food drive. I think it's a success, and it's a success only because of each and every one of you. Also, we solicit your prayers for my who was in a dirt bike incident yesterday. All around block that they were on the way to the emergency room because he fell off his dirt bike. Years old, but I had to get stitches, 6 stitches right here. I kicked up on it, and was still he had on his helmet. Probably got hit through the head. So, but we thank you for prayers, as well as all others, whatever they're going through. So, I'll substitute teaching this morning. Right, hope substitute. We actually keep them in prayer as well. This week, we're not getting into my sermons on faith. So we're trying to make that, we're trying to beat faith in you. We're to remind you of how to remind us how important faith is. The message version has all the elements of Christian faith around the world. And as we would do, government officials may from time to time view the gospel message of Christian ministry as acts of rebellion. For nothing and share the love of Jesus Christ. The events surrounding the HB gave a graphic of the risk of Christian ministry. Yet, what is most is amidst the train of truth. Really wonder how often his has repeated in this regard. What do we do when believers we face a situation that the introduction is there. I just here now. There's nothing, especially when the first time to me, and just transparent, I read this on the way to church this morning. All the way in my mind last night, I thought, what I wanted to do, Sister Cora, I prepare my sermon. Then I don't look at the Sunday school lesson until after I prepare my sermon. Because I want to be able to see how God is working. There's a line with the Sunday school lesson and not allow the Sunday school lesson to influence my sermon. So I read the lesson this morning. I want to text and drive. But the first thing that popped out to me, officials may from time to time view the gospel message and Christian ministry as acts of seduction and rebellion. It amazes me how our government officials claiming on the Lord, get up and say everything, quote Bible scriptures, but do everything differently than what the Lord is guided, what God says. Is it because they're trying to be liked in the community? Is it because they have a task of a whole, with all these different personalities in the community that they're trying to please these people? And I think that's the case. But when you try to please man, you can't please God. But if you please God, I believe men and women will follow. But we do use scripture for our own seduction, to seduce people, in what we want. And because we got to think about seduction doesn't only happen in the bedroom. We say we entice people outside the bedroom. We use seduction when it comes to matters of sexual encounters, but we can seduce people, and they got to be nothing sexual about it. Our politicians do that. But the other thing that happens is that when this happens, Christians find themselves before the law courts or otherwise persecuted for doing nothing more than sharing the love of Jesus Christ. It's one thing to be persecuted when you know you've done wrong and you claim you've done right. But it's another one to know you're right and still be persecuted for something that people are claiming you did, and good doggone well you didn't do it. That's where Stephen finds himself at. He finds himself in a situation where all he was doing the work of the Lord, being faithful in the Lord, and yet instead here comes some people that, as the Bible says, and we'll get into the Bible story, it says, as the key verse says, some stood up and arranged argue with Stephen, but they could not withstand the wisdom and the spirit with which he spoke. Every now and then, they say you shouldn't argue with a fool. Because when you start arguing, nobody's going to know who's the smart. I don't think Stephen argued with them. He just allowed his intellect to outshine their argument. And can I tell you, when people realize they are lost, when people realize that other people realize that they're not as smart as they thought they were, because of someone else, they're going to be out to get you in. A lot of us, it ain't that we've done anything wrong to nobody. We have never met these people, ain't really had that many conversations with these people. But because our favor and our intellect in God, it causes them to feel threatened. cause them to feel they're insecure in their walk. And I think Deion Sanders said, don't let my security, don't let my son affect your insecurity. So we got to realize, and all of us got some insecure ways about us. Let's just be honest. All of us are insecure about something that something within us, whether it's body, whether it's looks, whether it's clothes, whether it's speech, whether it's eyesight, whether it's something. We all have that insecurities. And when we stand beside somebody that is secure in what we're insecure in, our insecurities kick in. And they ain't even did that to us. If we're insecure about the clothes that we have on that day that we wear in church, let's just do it this way. We would say, you know, and I didn't want to wear this, but I'm going to wear it anyway because I was tired, I didn't wash, I had all this stuff going on that day, so I'm just going to put on this and I'm going to wear it. Then you sit beside somebody that just went to Macy's and bought a 3-piece suit or this amazing dress. You're going to say, well, let me back up. Not that we always have this thing with programs or stuff like that. What should I wear? What should I wear? Should I dress formal? Should I dress informal? Should I wear this or wear that? So you decide you're going to be informal. You know, you're going to be comfortable that day. It look good. But you dressing down there, you walk in and somebody sit beside you with an evening gown or tuxedo. Right? The first thing you're going to do, watch it. You hadn't even walked in the building yet. You hadn't even walked in the church yet. You just pulled up and you just saw that one person. Now you're insecure about going in because now in your mind, you thinking everybody is like that. So it's just as quick as that. Our insecurities have a way of making, like the song that Hitter Boys had, mind playing tricks on. Insecurities have a way of making your mind play tricks on you, right? So that's what Stephen is doing. The people's insecurity is playing tricks on them. Now they think they got to get Stephen. And the other thing I like, and a question I want to ask, but answer in your own time, is that last part. Likewise, what do we do when, as believers, we face situations that confront Stephen? What happens when you're trying to do your job, when you're trying to live so God can use you, and people are trying to confront you? But not only confront you, they're finding out how to tell lies on you. What do we do? What do we do? Do we do that, Stephen? And Stephen is kind of a hard case because we don't. Some people can't wrap their mind around how God can allow how God can allow his execution when he was being faithful to God. That's something that Christians fight with, and that's something that why some people don't want to be followers of Christ, because they think all bad things happen to followers of Christ. So what do we do when we face these situations? That's just a question that just ask yourself. If you want to answer it now, if you have a thought, you can. If not, I'm going to ask someone to start reading, telling the Bible story.
Telling the Bible story. Verse 7 of the text highlights a feature of Luke's writing style: summary statements to show the prevailing conditions or the results of the certain actions. Verses 12 and 24 gives another example of this. This reminds us that the Acts does not give a full chronological report of all that was happening in the early church. Some verses are just summaries. To understand why the religious elite of Stephen's day felt offended and threatened by the Christian faith movement, we must follow the growth of Christ's followers. The group started with 120 members in Acts 1 and 15 and grew to over 8,000 by Acts 2 and 41 and 4 and 4. The movement was not only popular among ordinary people, but attracted priests and other influential people. This had to be a source of concern for the traditional religious leaders.
Let's stop right there for a minute. Sister Diane, thank you for telling the Bible story. Is kind of long in some aspect. One of the first things that the author talks about is one of the reasons why the religious leaders were threatened is because they were losing members. You know, when something starts out and it starts out small, people don't really care about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when it starts gaining momentum and you start to see more people on that side than on your side, then when you really look, you realize the people that's on that side used to be on your side. And now you're at a point where you got to figure out how to get them back. But watch this. What we look at what they're doing and try to pick out what they're doing wrong in the situation. And instead of taking a self-examination of us. They started out with 120 members. Then by Acts 2, it was over 8,000. Well, I would, Sister Corey, you love to see you pull up at the church, and one Sunday is 15 members, then the next Sunday is 120 members, then the next Sunday after that is 8,000 members. That's the way the movement happened. I was having a conversation with one of my employees, co-workers, about the city of Tallahassee. It seems like we can't keep people. It seems like certain departments are a revolving door. And I made a comment, I really think, and as management, and me being a part of the management team, because it's a reflection of me as a manager with the city of Tallahassee too, we need to take a self-examination and stop trying to put blame on the people that are leaving, and instead of looking at us and why they're leaving. Sometimes you got to look at why something is wrong. You got to look at why something is failing. And sometimes you got to put yourself in that equation, or you got to remove your feelings out of the situation. Because if you put your feelings in it, more than likely you're trying to prevent your feelings from being hurt. So you're gonna project it on somebody else. That's what these people were doing. They had a source of concern for the traditional religious leaders. And watch this. I believe that's why some of our churches are hurting. Because we're still trying to stay with tradition, except for some of these younger generations. And I'm not going to say younger generations no more. I'm going to say those Christians that can adapt to change, and those churches that have people that can adapt to change are still growing. The churches that has these people that are stuck in their own way is the ones that's failing. Because we have, we always say we need to allow the youth to do more. We need to talk to the youth and all that. But there are some adults, some seasoned saints. I mean, maybe in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that have adapted. We got some seasoned saints, Sister Diane, in their 80s and 90s that probably will work an iPhone and work technology better than me. I've seen me and Sister Linda went to one of the conferences, the planning meeting, post-plan, it was one of them. They invited a preacher to preach that was, I think what it was, Sister Linda, 90 years old, and preached a sermon, Sister McChapel, Brother McChapel, I was upset, because he had more energy than me, and preached to the youth. And so it might have been CUIFC. 90 years old and preached a sermon that resonated with the youth. So we have people that are just to change. And the problem is that we're having is the traditional religious leaders that they're scared to lose their tradition. And instead of them focusing on what's happening, they're blaming, well, the youth don't want to listen, they don't want to do this. We don't need to do this in church because this is where we always did. Well, that might be a problem. If the church had made a change in a program in 30 years, you're still doing the same program. There's nothing wrong with our order of service. Let's put that out there. Our order of service is what it is. I love our order of service. But if you had made changes in 40 years to the order of service every now and then, it's gonna be messed up. I mean, some of us, even in our houses, we change, we might not change the furniture, but we would change it around some. We might, I don't need to say that for Sister Love, change the bedroom around. You might not change the furniture in the bedroom, but every now and then, you may change the way that you rearrange stuff. And that you're changing the tradition, sometimes you need to rearrange it to get a fresh perspective. But they didn't want to do that. Anything on that first part before we get into this second verse? Sister Dan, you can continue.
We do not have to venture far outside the text to understand why the traditional leaders were eager to destroy Stephen. From the text, we know he was a moral character and a deacon chosen to address the physical needs of the vulnerable in the church, 6:1-6. This would have given him a level of leadership and influence. Further, Stephen's skill in teaching and debate shamed educated, honored synagogue members, 6:9-10. Therefore, to regain their reputation and save face, these men first tried to destroy Stephen's credibility. After this, it was a natural step to move to destroy him physically.
You stop with that for a minute.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I know you got some on this. Go ahead.
But it just reminds me so much of our fleshly character. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Fleshly. When we feel that we've been threatened or been shamed, or regardless as to what the reality is,
Mm-hmm.
but if we feel that we were threatened or shamed, then Houston, we got a problem.
You got a problem.
And you on their list probably through their entire life.
Right.
And you might not even have a clue as to what's going on.
Mm-hmm. That's us.
That's what she's saying is exactly right, because people of leadership, educator, and this, with their learning skills and education, they thought that this man here can't know what he said, but they don't forget how he came about in the first place. See, Stephen was chosen along with 6 more by the apostles for problem in the church.
All right. And we got to think about it. And I'm glad both of you spoke on that. I'm going to go 2 ways with this. First, remember Job. Job never stepped foot in heaven. Job wasn't even thinking about heaven, but his name was spoken in a place he never stepped foot in. Right? Favor. Favor. Y'all always hear me say favor ain't foul. Some of our names are being spoken in rooms we would never step foot in. They're being spoken in places we at tables, we don't even know there are tables at.
And if somebody else happen to be at that table when your name is spoken.
That's it. Right. And that's where I was going. And this ain't about what God and the devil did, right? Because there was the 2 people that was butting heads with each other. But there may be somebody else at the table that's trying to get favor in the Lord and get favor in the devil. And now they can't because your name is being spoken. So now they got to get rid of you in order for them to be next in them, for them to be where they want to be at. All right. And then we look at this educational aspect. And that's where we're hurting it in the AME Church. There's no doubt in my mind as I go through to get my master's degree, and I've made up my mind that I'm going to get my doctorate. So I'm going to have the educational aspect of it. Education is important because it's teaching me new stuff. Now, what it's also teaching me that I had to learn everything I learned, I can't teach it to everybody else because everybody else ain't ready for that. So it gives me the ability to know how to help perfect my craft. How to give me more insight of what I need to do to help my people. But the problem we have is if some folk that have a doctorate degree by their name think they know everything, And somebody like the Sister Taylor can't tell them or teach them that. Right? And then when one of the youth or somebody that doesn't have that education that they have not a threat. Because in their mind, they're looking at them.
And who do you think?
And who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And watch this. That's why our former president is the way he is. Because he's telling people, who do you think y'all are? And the election was rigged because I don't lose. So it ain't no way that I can lose. It ain't no way. These people know more than me. So the first thing people do, right, and this is so amazing, this happened way back then, they attack his credibility. What's the first thing Trump did? Attack the credibility of the election. First thing he did, attack the credibility of the election. Then after he attacked the credibility of it, then he wanted to cause physical harm to those that he thought was in his way. And it's so amazing what's happening that the politicians are using the same playbook that evilness used in the Bible. And I'm not going to give the devil the credit for this, because some of us are just plain out evil. The devil ain't got nothing to do with it.
It's just us. It's just us.
It's just us. So the devil ain't got to do that. Right? If you're already a part of a team and you're running the playbook to perfection, the coach ain't got to get on you. Coach might talk to you just to make sure to pep you up. Some of us have been playing on the devil's side for so long. We're the Tom Brady of the devil's football team. We know the playbook. He allowed us, watch it. He allowed us to change the plays that he had called in. He allows us to audible when we see something, when we see something wrong. Some of us are playing on that. We've been on that song, Who's on the Lord's Side? You got to realize, every time you ask a question, who's on the Lord's side? That means somebody's got to be on what? The other side. Yeah. So people will attack your credibility. People will, after they try to attack your credibility, because it's one thing to attack your credibility, because when your credibility is gone, eventually you can get it back if you continue and do the works. Yeah. Right? But after they do that, they got to do something to shut you up. So now they got to attack you physically. They got to do something to either put you behind bars, to shut you up. They got to do something to you physically. And sometimes, in our case, a lot of times it's mentally. People can mess us up so much mentally that we don't know if we're coming or going. They can attack our credibility so much that we don't know who we are no more. Because we're starting to believe the hype. We're starting to believe the lies. We're starting to believe, well, maybe I am who they say I am.
And if they don't get you in your present, they'll try to attack you in your past.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. Because one thing somebody can never do, right, is stop your future. Mm-hmm. But we can allow people to hinder our future. Mm-hmm. We can allow people to change the path of our future. But they can't stop it. But because they don't know what the future holds. So because they don't know, they have an idea in their mind that your future is brighter than theirs. They have in their mind that your future is better than theirs. So because of that, and they don't know how to walk into their future, and knowing just because yours is brighter, theirs can be that same. They got to attack your brightness. Right? In other words, they're trying to allow their darkness to overshadow your brightness. And when they realize that no matter how much you try, if there's a little light, it is going to strike through their darkness. So they got to remove that little light that you have. So they're attacking and really they're attacking your past. Because they don't know too much about your present. So they got to go back and dig up everything that has happened in the past. When you see these shootings, when you see stuff that happen, what's the first thing the news do? They go back and look at somebody's background. And I always say that police didn't know that person was this when they pulled. That police didn't know that person was this when they pulled the trigger. They didn't know none of that. So why are you bringing up that? Because you're trying to justify the presence in order for you to move in the future, and that person can't. So we realize that, and we still have to remain faithful and all of that to the Lord. We still got to live in faith. Let's finish telling the Bible story. I can't remember what you said.
Me too. But why were Stephen's words so biting? First, the Jews saw his commentary as a direct attack on the most sacred institutions of the Jewish faith, the temple and the law. God originally sanctioned both. However, over time, man's practices had corrupted both, hence Jesus' rage about the temple practices. Still, the Jews tied their righteousness to their ability to observe outwardly the temple rituals and the law, or their corruption of the law. And let me read that again, I got confused. Still, the Jews tied their righteousness to their ability to observe outwardly the temple rituals and the law, or their corruption of the law. Okay. And so an attack on the temple and the law was an attack on the faith and righteousness of the Jews individually and the Jewish nation collectively. That attack would have drawn blood from their hearts and taken the color out of their faces. What happened then was an expression of that hot, murderous rage. Stephen paid the ultimate price for standing for his faith. He suffered for doing good, a living enactment of 1 Peter 3:14. Yet, was that all of the story? Where was the glory of living for God? Oh yes, there was glory. During the ordeal, God encouraged Stephen and strengthened him to resolve by giving Stephen a powerful, more profound experience of God. By standing firm on his faith in the face of death, Stephen got a glimpse of the spiritual reality that awaited him, a view reserved for the selected chosen few. To appreciate this, compare Acts 6:15 and 7:55-56 with Hebrews 11:1. Most of us get to speak gloriously about faith, but never see the glory of faith in this life. Stephen saw the glory and assurance of faith. He won glory by losing his earthly life. He won. Stephen's victory is a victory for every believer who lives in faith. Faith does not guarantee us any particular outcome. It assures us of glory and the certainty of the object of our faith. We cannot lose.
Anyone on any of that?
We might not get heaven on this side, but we got a promise for the other side.
So we just got to continue to walk in our faith. And as we walk in our faith, even though we know we got it on the other side, the Lord is still going to give us some type of peace on this side. Stephen, even though he was facing death, knew what the outcome was. Watch this. There's no doubt in my mind, the Lord has already told him what was going to happen. The Lord has already given him the peace that, Stephen, death is looming. That the only way I can get you out of this situation is to bring you home to me. And sometimes, sometimes the best way to remove yourself from stuff is to remove yourself altogether out of the situation. But our problem is we want to try to fix it and still stay in it. And sometimes in order to fix it, you got to step back and allow somebody else to do it. The thing that popped out to me is kind of what Sister Diane had to reread. Because I had to reread it first. Still, the Jews tied their righteousness to their ability to observe outward the temple ritual and the law, or their corruption of the law. Can I put it in terms that we can understand it?
Yes, sir, because I'm still
kind of confused. let me make this public service announcement. I'm using McChapel, but this is not at McChapel. All right, let's make that public service announcement for the people that are on the Bear Stream Challenge. They're making, the members of McChapel don't want change because they just see an attack on the building. They don't want new doors because there's an attack on the building. They don't want new pews because there's an attack on the building. They don't want new carpet because they feel like there's an attack on the building and it's moving in a direction that they don't want. So because of that, they're trying to protect the building when God is trying to build up his church. So what they were doing was Stephen was talking about their temple worship. He was talking about the laws of Moses. He was talking about the 10 Commandments when Jesus said in his word, I did not come to condemn the law, I came to fulfill the law. But all they seen was the condemnment of the law. And because they saw the condemnment of the law, we got to get his so-and-so out of here. He's got to go. Because he's trying to change what we know. And the hardest thing for that old dog is to teach him new truths. And I always say, if you're an old dog, you're not a Christian. You're not a follower of Christ. Because you should always be willing to learn. And it just dawned on me, we have a lot of old dogs in the church. They're not willing to change. Because if they change, they got to learn something new. I love the order of worship because I know. I got to learn the new system. I'm good. I know when to stand up. I know when to sit down. And time change. Well, that's what we sit down. I got to stand up now. You done messed up. You can't be in my church no more. Time you move the piano. I'm used to the piano being right here. That's what it always been. Time you move it right here, now we got a problem. Because it messes up everything. Now I realize
I ain't comfortable.
And I ain't comfortable with it. And because I ain't comfortable with it,
We ain't gonna do it.
I got, well, watch this. Before we not gonna do it, I got to find somebody else.
To do it the way I want it to be.
To make sure I got somebody on my side. I got somebody that's gonna help me, right? And watch this, now that I got somebody, I can instigate in private.
To do what I want
Them to do in public.
We've been talking about this all day.
And it says that I want y'all, when you get a chance, read the case study. And everybody, when y'all get a chance, just read the case study. And if you don't have the book, I will print it out for you, but read the case study. Because the case study tells you why people act the way they act. We got to realize, and I'm going to close out with this. We got to realize that people are afraid.
Fear.
In fear of change.
Fear.
Because if that change happens, they got to learn something new. Can I just come get transparent? I don't like iPhone. The reason why I don't have an iPhone, reason why I don't have an Apple laptop is because if it breaks, I don't think I can fix it.
So you want something you can master.
I want something that I not that I can, I want something that's already mastered. If this tablet messes up in the middle of my preaching or teaching or my DJing, 9 times out of 10, I probably can fix it to get it to the point to where I can continue. I got to relearn Apple. I got to relearn the iPhone. Not that I can't do it, because I know I'm capable of doing it. I just don't want to. I just don't want to. I just don't want to.
Same here.
And watch this. And the difference is, because I have a choice, I don't have to. But what happens when these go away and everything goes to the iPhone? Everything goes to Apple. Or everything goes to something else.
And everybody starting on the level playing field.
And everybody starting on the level
And
playing
I
field.
ain't on top.
And I ain't on top no more. Now I got a problem. Because now I got to depend on somebody else. And this is my church. It's Mama in the church. I've been on top for so long, I dare you to try to put me down to where you are. That is why, that's what was happening then, and that's what's happening now. We don't want change, we don't like change, we're not accustomed to change. And some of us will not allow change. But watch this, while we're trying to fight against it, change is still happening. While we're trying to fight against it, somebody, Brother Kelso, is still trying to go back to horse and buggy. They don't want automobiles, but guess what? While they still trying to keep horse and buggy, they still may have their horse and buggy, but automobiles are all around. People are still trying to keep gas vehicles. They don't want electric vehicles, but guess what? They're already here.
It's going.
And it's time. People that want cell phones. Some people still ain't got cell phones. And they ain't got no house phone either because the house phone messed up. Right? But guess what? Change is still coming. People that want technology in the church and still don't want technology in the church. But guess what?
Yeah.
It is already here. So while you're trying to fight change, change is going to happen with or without you. So the thing we got to do is make sure the change that is happening aligns with what the Lord wants for us.
Amen.
Because if we're fighting it to the point to where when it happens, it may happen because it may happen in a way that's not conducive to the church. So we got to make sure it's happening.
I was going to say that if the change was their idea, if they would have been okay.
Oh yeah. Well, I got to close. I'm sorry, y'all. But one thing I've learned, right? And I might be telling on myself. So if I'm telling on myself and I've done it to you, I'm sorry. But sometimes you got to make it feel like it's their idea. You got to pitch it.
Be careful with that now, Pastor. Okay. Okay.
I leave it alone, sister. Leave it alone. Okay, check those sisters. But that's right. If it's their idea, they're fine with it. But time is not. Oh, you know what? Gonna break loose.
When you say about the horse and buggy, you know, in the Amish country, they still ride horses and buggy.
They sure do.
And they got this much legal right in the car.
Mm-hmm.
More so.
More so. And watch this. And on the flip side of that, right? You pull behind while you mad. Because they ain't in your way. Right? So on the flip side of that, don't allow all your technology to get in the way of somebody else's movement. Just because they're not where you at right now.
That's true.
You still allow them to be in their lane. When the opportunity comes, you just ease on around and keep going.
I was going to say up north, they have parking lots for horse and buggies at Walmart.
Right. Watch this. Tallahassee, a couple of weeks ago, I'm in the citizen gave me an electric vehicle, Ford Lightning. I pull up and I didn't have a phone. What I could get. And I actually didn't think about it because I was amazed. I pulled up to the light and I look on Tennessee Street, and guess what I see coming? A gallon horse. Just trying along. Hey, and he was moving too. So, regardless of change, right? Some people are not going to, they will accept it, but they're not going to deal with it because they're comfortable in what they have. They're fine with you having your car, but I'm going to have my horse. I'm comfortable with anybody that has an iPhone and loves the iPhone, but I'm going to keep my Android. And guess what? We could talk all day long, which one better? But at the end of the day, I'm still going to love you, even though you got an iPhone. I still love Sister Linda, even though she loves Florida State. I can't. But because in life, we got to realize the Lord puts all of us here for a purpose. He puts all of us here to balance each other out. And sometimes opposites will attract. Sometimes you got to have the opposites. You got to have all of that stuff in the church to keep us grounded in the Lord. Because if all of us was agreeing some may go unnoticed. And the devil's gonna slip in the middle of that agreement, because now we can't deal with it, because time somebody disagrees, we don't know what to do. So when we're walking in faith, continue to walk, continue to lean on the Lord. Wherever you're at in your walk, especially with this fast-paced moving world, wherever you're at, continue to walk in the Lord. Don't allow nobody else to pull you faster than you think that the Lord is allowing you to go, or push you, let me rephrase that, pull you back from where the Lord wants you to go and push you faster than what the Lord is intending you to go. Run your race, stay the course, and allow the Lord to guide you. It's back in the hands of
Get it back in the hands.
Yeah, the high point basically was talking about, living in faith and how Stephen was one of the first people, to speak up against his faith before the council. And it says, Stephen had people who spoke against him and shared false statements about him that stirred up the crowd to turn against him. So Taylor, you tell me it's a lot going on at the high school. So, and there's a lot of fights and stuff. So what's the first thing everybody do when a fight break out?
They all running.
I told you not to tell others not to get their phones out, we think it's entertaining not to get their phones out. Would you tell them or would you?
Anybody want to share a high point about the lesson they did? I say, even along the 6 months, they were pointing out, and they were having a problem. They were having a problem in the church with great women and great women. It was something like food or something. But that's what they were. The first 7 deacons were chosen. Deacons the 6 months. But there was a problem going on in the church. And they said, look among you and find 7 men full of the Holy Ghost. Not no playtime when you are electing officials of the church. Because you cannot. So I think the church has gone away from that category. We like somebody. Read it for yourself, you can find it. Okay, y'all, we can move on.
Brother Cal, I know we got to move on. I know we do. Stephen was the first. And because he was the first, you see what they did to him. Because if I could cut you, sometimes you got to be the first to step out. You got to be the first to speak out. Because what you don't know what they're going to do. Every now and then, it's okay to be the first to speak out. It's okay to speak out. It's okay to speak out. It means to live in faith. Because you're willing to step out on the Lord's side, even if nobody else does. So sometimes we just got to step out and know that the Lord has us.
And know that our intentions are in the right place.
As long as our intentions in the right place.
Okay, announcement. We don't ran out of time. We took away some kind of book. And if not, we'll get ready for service and close. We're gonna do an offering along breakfast, okay? I believe my AME must grow and grow, and I want to make it top priority to make it so. Every member Christian, every critical worker, every worker trying to work need not be ashamed. This we ask in Jesus' name. We have come, we have said it, we have learned. So let's do our next come together to build God's word. May His rich blessing reside with you, and may His grace be eternally yours. Amen.
Okay.
I got one. Hey, lovely. All right, all right.